1. You develop a serverless application using several Azure functions. These routines are used to link to data that is stored within the code. For an Azure Function App project, you wish to set up tracing. In the hosts and file, you must make changes to the configuration parameters. What tool should you employ? A. Azure Functions Core Tools, Azure CLI. B. Azure Portal. C. Visual Studio. D. Azure PowerShell. Two. Your firm is working on an Azure API. You must implement authentication for the Azure API, and you must meet the following criteria. All API requests must be secure, according to the AZ-204 dumps. Callers to the API must not transmit credentials to the API, according to AZ-204. Which type of authentication should you use? A. Managed Identity. B. Basic. C. Client Certificate. D. Anonymous. Three. You're working on an app that uses Azure Blob Storage. For auditing purposes, the application must read the transaction logs of all changes to the blobs and blob metadata in the storage account. Only create, update, delete, and copy operations are allowed, and the changes must be kept in the order in which they occurred for compliance reasons. The transaction logs must be processed asynchronously. What are your options? A. On the storage account, enable the change feed and process all changes for available events. B. Process all Azure Blob Storage events by using Azure Event Grid with a subscriber Azure Function App. C. Scanning the request body for successful blob events with the Azure Monitor HTTP Data Collector API. D. Examine all Azure Storage Analytics logs for blob events that were successful. Four. User agreements must be kept on file. After the agreement is completed, where should you store it? A. Azure Event Grid Topic. B. Azure Storage Queue. C. Azure Event Hub. D. Azure Service Bus Topic. Five. You create an application that lets users upload photographs and movies to Azure Storage. The media is uploaded to a blob storage account named Account 1 via a Storage REST API call. Container 1 and Container 2 are two blob storage containers that you have. Video uploading is done on a sporadic basis. When a new movie is uploaded, you must copy specified blobs from Container 1 to Container 2. What are your options? A. Use the Start Azure Storage Blob Copy commandlet to create an event grid topic. B. Using the Blob Service REST API's put blob operation, copy blobs to Container 2. C. The blob should be downloaded to a virtual computer and then uploaded to Container 2. D. To copy blobs to Container 2, use AZ-copy with the snapshot switch. Six. You create and launch a web app using Azure App Service. Azure Traffic Manager is used to deploy the app across various regions. The app has application insights turned on. You must examine the app's uptime for each month. Which of the two solutions will be the most successful in achieving the goal? Each accurate response provides a comprehensive solution. Note: There are two correct answers for this question. A. Azure Monitor Logs. B. Application Insights Alerts. C. Azure Monitor Metrics. D. Application Insights Web Tests. Seven. You create a web app for Azure App Service. In Azure Active Directory, Azure AD and Twitter, you create an app registration for the app. Users must be authenticated, and all conversations must be encrypted with SSL. As the identity provider, the app must use Twitter. The Azure AD request must be validated in the app code. What should you confirm? A. ID token header. B. Tenant ID. C. HTTP response code. D. ID token signature. Eight. You're building an app that will store data in Cosmos DB. Batches of relational data will be processed by the app. For the app, you must choose an API. What API should you employ? A. Table API. B. SQL API. C. Cassandra API. D. MongoDB API. Nine. You're in charge of a data processing program that gets requests from an Azure storage queue. You must control who has access to the queue. You must meet the following criteria. Allow access to the Azure queue for other applications. Make sure you can disable queue access without having to regenerate the storage account keys. Access should be specified at the queue level rather than at the storage account level. Should you use a shared access signature, SAS, of a certain type? A. Service SAS with ad hoc SAS. B. Service SAS with a stored access policy. C. Account SAS. D. User delegation SAS. Ten. You're creating and running an Azure batch task with code. You've set up a cluster of compute nodes. To submit a batch job to the batch service, you must select the appropriate class and method. Which approach should you take? A. Job operations.enable job with parameters, string and IE numerable. B. Job operations.create job O. C. Cloud job.enable with parameter, IE numerable. D. Cloud job.commit async with parameters, IE numerable and cancellation token. (11) You create an Azure web application. Application Insights is used to keep track of the web app's performance. You must make certain that the cost of Application Insights does not exceed a predetermined budget. What are your options? A. For the Application Insights instance, set a daily limit. B. Using the Azure portal, implement ingestion sampling. C. The Application Insights SDK can be used to implement adaptive sampling. D. Using the Azure portal, implement adaptive sampling. (12) You are in charge of creating a website. The website will be hosted in Azure. After the website is launched, you anticipate a huge number of traffic. You must keep the website accessible and responsive while keeping costs low. You must launch the web page. What are your options? A. Use the standard service tier to deploy the website to an app service. When the CPU demand is high, configure the app service strategy to automatically scale. B. Set up a virtual computer to host the website. When the CPU demand is high, configure the virtual machine to automatically scale. C. Use the shared service layer to deploy the website to an app service. When the CPU demand is high, configure the app service strategy to automatically scale. D. Set up a virtual computer to host the website. When the CPU load is high, use a scale set to increase the virtual machine instance count. (13) In Azure, a company hosts web apps. Azure Monitor is used by the company. You see that some of the online apps have had their configurations changed. You'll need to figure out what's changed in the setting. Which Azure Monitor logs do you need to look at? A. App Service Audit Logs. B. App Service Environment Platform Logs. C. App Service Console Logs. D. App Service App Logs. (14) You create a solution for a mobile app that stores user data in an Azure SQL database. Users' sensitive information is stored in the app. Developers that query the data for the mobile app must be able to see sensitive information. When configuring dynamic data masking, which 3 items must you look for? Each accurate response is accompanied with a component of the solution. Note, there are 3 correct answers for this question. A. Trigger. B. Column. C. Schema. D. Table. E. Index. (15) You create a web app and deploy it to Azure App Service. In a single region, the Azure App Service employs the basic plan. You must record the telemetry. Which of the 3 acts should you take? Each accurate response reveals a piece of the solution. Note, there are 3 correct answers for this question. A. Enable Profiler. B. Upgrade the Azure App Service plan to Premium. C. Enable Application Insights Site Extensions. D. Enable Remote Debugging. E. Restart in apps in the App Service plan. F. Enable the Always-On setting for the app service. (16) You're building an Azure API app that relies on built-in authentication and permission. All app operations must be linked to the current user's information. You'll need to get information about the current user. What are 2 options for achieving the goal? Each accurate response provides a comprehensive solution. Note, there are 2 correct answers for this question. A. /authorize/ login endpoint. B. HTTP headers. C. Environment variables. D. /authorize/ me HTTP endpoint. (17) You create a software as a service, SaaS application for managing images. The photos are uploaded to a web service, which subsequently stores them in Azure Storage Blob Storage. General Purpose V2 is the storage account type. When photos are submitted, they must be processed so that a mobile-friendly version of the image can be created and saved. In less than 1 minute, the process of creating a mobile-friendly version of the image must begin. You must create the procedure that initiates the photo processing. Solution: create a blob storage account from the Azure storage account. Is the solution effective in achieving the goal? A. No. B. Yes. Microsoft Azure AZ-204 Practice Test. The Microsoft Azure AZ-204 exam certifies developers in building and managing cloud applications on the Azure platform. It covers essential skills like Azure SDKs, serverless computing, and automation. Passing the exam qualifies individuals for roles such as Junior Cloud Developer and Azure Developer Associate. Microsoft Azure AZ-204 certification. Practice questions are created by experts to assist in exam preparation by assessing your knowledge and identifying areas that may require further study. The certification exam consists of 45 questions, which must be completed within 60 minutes, and requires a minimum score of 744 to pass. Study resources and preparation tips. Utilize practice tests, mock exams, and official Microsoft study guides such as Developing Solutions for Microsoft Azure. Engage in hands-on experience with Azure Labs to reinforce knowledge and skills. Regular study and practice can increase your chances of passing the exam and becoming certified.